The Wisconsin Badgers are in the win column once again, maybe by a slightly less than comfortable margin, but the overall feel of the game was pretty good. I think there are two players on this Wisconsin team that didn't quite show up the way that, Badger fans may have been hoping them to, but I also think there's some interesting Greg Gard discussion points coming out of this game. We're going to break it all down here on the Scotty Six Pack Podcast. Good morning, and thank you for enjoying it with the six pack of the Scotty Six Pack, the only podcast talking all things Wisconsin sports with you 6 days a week. I am your host, Kedrick Stumbers, and you can find me on the website formerly known as Twitter at Kedrick Stumbers, and follow the podcast at Scotty Six Pack for the latest updates in Wisconsin sports. So Wisconsin gets the win 74-70 over Maryland, and it wasn't really that close. It didn't really feel like a 4-point game. We'll talk about that more in the second half of the show. But first, I want to give some kudos where kudos are due here, because this was a game that I thought could have been, difficult, a relatively tricky game to handle against a tricky Maryland defense that frankly did give Wisconsin trouble at times during this game. And with two players in Jameer Young and Julian Reese that can score buckets, that are great at getting to the free throw line. This was a tough game for Wisconsin, despite the fact that Maryland is probably not an NCAA tournament team this year. And with that, you have to give kudos to a couple of guys. And I think first and foremost is Tyler Wall, who had a little bit of a rough start. He turned the ball over 3 times in basically 4 minutes to start the game. Headed into the under 16 timeout, Tyler Wall, turned the ball over after jump stopping and picking up his dribble, kind of threw the ball, got trapped, didn't really have anywhere to go with it. The next possession out of the timeout, he traveled and he got called for another travel after the under 12-minute timeout, or to go to the under 12-minute timeout. But Tyler Wall did not turn the ball over in the second half at all. After turning the ball over to go to the under 12, he didn't turn the ball over again. And not only that, but he put up 10 points in the first half. He put up another 8 points in the second half. He played very well and did so relatively efficiently. He had those 18 points on 6 of 9 shooting. Incredibly impressive from him. Also hitting 6 of 7 free throw attempts. An excellent Tyler Wall performance with, just some impressive post moves, kind of as always, that come from Tyler Wall. He had a spinning, kind of like double pirouette move and a reverse to finish. He had a little hook just outside the restricted area. There was, times where having Tyler Wall on the bench showed that Wisconsin was having a hard time getting their offense going. And there's a lot of talk about Stephen Crowell being the straw that stirs Wisconsin's drink. You could say that about Chucky Hepburn. I think, frankly, every piece on this team is part of a puzzle that works pretty well together, particularly on offense. And if you take any one of those starters out, this team just isn't the same. But Wisconsin had Tyler Wall and AJ Storr sitting on the bench for almost 4 full minutes after the under 16 timeout in the second half. And Wisconsin only scored 1 bucket in that period. They were held scoreless for, just over 3 minutes. Having Tyler Wall in the game is really important. He is really excellent in the low post. He has the most post moves on the team, quite frankly. I know that Tyler Wall is obviously not a center, but he's maybe a little more skilled in a finesse sense around the rim than Stephen Crowell is, and I find him to be impressive every time I watch him. For those of you that know me, follow me, you'll know that I've been tracking Tyler Wall's ascent up through the Wisconsin basketball record books basically this entire season, and seeing that he's going to finish, through the fact that he's had 5 playing years, of course, but he's going to finish with his name littered all over the top 10 of the Wisconsin basketball record books, and it's for good reason. And it's not only because he has been playing for so long. It is also going to be because he is a great player, and just has improved year over year. He definitely had a down year last year, and maybe some of that was because of an injury that he suffered early on in the season. But he's been excellent almost the entire year this season. Was maybe the only reason Wisconsin had any chance of winning the game against Purdue earlier this year, and it's just been so fun to watch him play this season, and I'm excited to see him play in the NCAA tournament this year. Another player that I thought played particularly well in this one was Max Klesmit. Max Klesmit, who has struggled to score as of late, he got out from the jump. He forced a jump ball early on Maryland's, like, one of their first 3 possessions. Klesmit nailed an early 3 on his very first attempt. There was also a sequence where Wisconsin drew 3 fouls on one possession, one of which was from Klesmit starting to go hard at the hoop. This was in that stretch of between the under 16, under 12 minute timeout in the first half, where Tyler Wall had those 3 turnovers. Within that, there was also another possession where Wisconsin drew 3 fouls on the same possession. Steven Crowell drew a foul up at the perimeter. Max Klesmit then drew a foul immediately after the inbounds play, got him the ball, and then he started to drive to the hoop, drew an immediate foul. John Blackwell ended up drawing a foul in the low post there to finish off that possession, go to the free throw line. But I thought that was really, really, really fantastic from him. Max Klesmit also, buried a deep 3 late in the game. That there's a lot of stuff going around with him, given the sleep celebration there. Putting you to bed. Didn't quite put Maryland to bed. Arguably did, but it was a tough shot that fortunately Max Klesmit made, and he also had some big free throws down the stretch in this game, and that's part of the reason Wisconsin looks so good coming out of this one. In particular, Max Klesmit was 8 of 8 from the free throw line in this game. He put up 16 points on only 3 of 7 shooting. But when you add 8 of 8 free throw attempts, that's going to happen. He's 2 of 5 from 3. One really early in the game, one late in the game, and that's basically all you need. He didn't turn the ball over. He snagged 2 boards. He had a steal. It was a solid Max Klesmit game, and him getting going is maybe good for this team. Maybe something that can be carried forward. Overall, I thought that was really impressive stuff from Max Klesmit tonight. One Badger, or last night rather, when you're listening to this, one Badger that I thought had a rough night, Steven Crowell. Definitely not a great Steven Crowell night after a night that I think you could interpret a couple of different ways. That Steven Crowell played against Iowa. Steven Crowell against Iowa kind of got his a little bit offensively. He and Owen Freeman going at it, but Owen Freeman, got plenty against Steven Crowell. And I thought Steven Crowell was not just rough offensively, but also rough defensively in this game. Julian Reese, Maryland starting center, who I think is a tough guard. He's really good. He draws a lot of fouls. He had 18 points in this one, and at times just kind of took Steven Crowell to school. It looked like it was not great. He finished with 7 of 12 shooting. Julian Reese also is good at, connecting on free throws when he is fouled. And there were times where Steven Crowell, gets beat, and it's a lazy foul. And he gives that and, gets to the free throw line after that. And that leads to Steven Crowell having to sit on the bench at times as he racks up 4 fouls in this game. I thought that was a little unfortunate. I thought that was not very impressive defense from Steven Crowell last night. Offensively, fine. 8 points, 3 of 6 shooting. Connects on a couple of free throws. He has 2 offensive rebounds. It was like, okay, he had a pretty solid block, pretty solid steal. But, besides the stuff on defense, Steven Crowell turned the ball over pretty badly. And I know I talked about Tyler Wall turning the ball over early, but Tyler Wall also made up for that with his offense. Steven Crowell didn't really make up for that with a big offensive outburst. But Wisconsin overall was turning the ball over quite a bit early in this game. Jeff Petroikis of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel put out on the website formerly known as Twitter that the Badgers had 8 turnovers on the first 24 possessions, but finished the game with 12 turnovers on a total of 62 possessions. So after turning the ball over 8 times in the first 24 possessions, Wisconsin turned the ball over 4 times in the last 38. So that was very impressive. Steven Crowell had, 4 first half turnovers. Really not that good. And all of them were, not good turnovers. He turned the ball over one more time in the second half, I believe, on another offensive foul. I could be wrong about that. But Steven Crowell turned the ball over 4 times in the first half. One of them, and it sucked because he had a really good shot where he got blocked the first time, and then he faked right to shoot left and made it around Julian Reese. That I thought was really impressive. But one of those instances where the Badgers turned the ball over in that break between the under 16, under 12 timeout that I said that Tyler Wall turned the ball over 3 times in there. There was another Steven Crowell turnover in there where Steven Crowell turned the ball over on an offensive foul. Steven Crowell also had a really bad pass for a turnover twice in the first half. He turned the ball over after getting double teamed, couldn't get the pass out. In the first one, he got completely read like a book trying to bring the ball up to the top of the perimeter against AJ Store, and the pass just never had a chance. It was tipped out for an easy bucket, which was not great. Another time, bad miscommunication between AJ Store and Max Klesmit on something that looks like it's supposed to be resembling a dribble handoff. It was not good, and there was another turnover on a double team again later on. It just was not very, very, very great night from Steven Crowell. And Wisconsin's going to need him to be a little bit better. It was not a great night, Steven Crowell wise. And there's another Badger that I want to talk about who had not a great performance, and someone who's had an up and down year at times, and in this case had pretty up and down game. I want to tell you about that after we talk to you about our friends over at TickPick, because TickPick is where I go to get tickets for any sporting event that I would like to go to. I went to a sporting event this President's Day where the NHL plays games on Mondays. Went to see the San Jose Sharks. So I'm sitting here in Northern California, and it's a great time. And I got my tickets on TickPick. I got the best deal possible, and I did not pay fees on my tickets, which is the best part about buying tickets on TickPick and why I always use TickPick. And I want you to always use TickPick, and I want you to save $10 on your first order on no fee tickets to any live event. So if you use my link in the podcast description, my link that's on the screen right now, you're going to save $10 on your first order on TickPick. So go to the Google Play Store, go to the Apple App Store, download the TickPick app. That's TickPick. Click my link in the podcast description. Click my link in the YouTube description. Use the link that's on the screen right now. You're going to save $10 on your first order on TickPick and never pay hidden fees, never pay service or delivery fees for tickets for live events ever again. Coming up this week on the show, we're going to talk to our good friend Noah I almost said Noah Crowell. Noah Clark. It's late. Noah Clark of 1070's Game about Wisconsin women's hockey team, who, I mean, he and I were talking over the weekend about, man, what a great job the Badgers did, kind of dismantling the Minnesota Golden Gophers at times over the weekend. And they welcome number 1 Ohio State. We got a number 1, number 2 matchup in Madison this weekend in LeBron Arena, and that'll do a lot for Wisconsin, as they would like to get the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. If you can beat Ohio State in back-to-back games this weekend, then go out, win the conference tournament, you might have something there. You might have a case for it. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to break that all down, and also then try to get a guest on the show. Still efforting somebody before week's end to talk down this Wisconsin basketball team, because there's some stuff here to talk about while we await the next game against Indiana next Tuesday. And a player that needs to perform a little bit better in that game next Tuesday is AJ Storr. The AJ Storr experience was on full display in this one, where he is a dynamic player. He had, I mean, just one of the highlight reel dunks of the college basketball season in this one, in transition, arguably getting fouled, did not get the call, but puts a guy in a poster, mean mugs him a little bit. He had another excellent, layup through contact in the lane, but at times too, it's taking bad mid-range jumpers on the baseline, turning the ball over. Takes a deep 3 early in the shot clock that Greg Gard obviously did not like from him. It was not great. I mean, he had 10 points on 5 of 13 shooting. That's not super efficient. He was 0 of 3 from 3 again. AJ Storr is having a really tough time hitting from 3 lately, and I think part of that is just the negative, percentage shot selection that he has when taking those threes. He can make threes when he gets open looks, and he's a solid 3-point shooter, but so many of these times he's choosing to take contested threes or just early threes in the shot clock when it's just not necessary. And he also turned the ball over twice in the second half, was 2 of those 4 late Wisconsin turnovers. So there is some of, you have to take the good with the bad with AJ Storr, because the good is so good, and he can give you so much. He's going to make some of these bad shots, but if he's going to take them, he has to make them. At least make them at a little bit of a better clip than 5 of 13. He had 8 rebounds, which was fine. He also had an assist on a bucket that I thought was real solid. Want to make sure I find it in my notes. I believe it was to Stephen Crowell. Yeah, he created a good bucket for Stephen Crowell. He made an excellent cutoff screen that left Stephen Crowell wide open right under the rim. That was not an assist, but a play that I wanted to note there, which was really good. But clearly, Greg Gard was not pleased with Stephen Crowell all the way through in this one. Or sorry, with AJ Storr all the way through in this one, and he made some questionable defensive decisions after he chucks up a deep 3. He gets burned on defense on the other end, which is just not good. He sat for the final 3 minutes and 20 seconds after committing a late turnover. He came back for the final 11 seconds only because John Blackwell fouled out, but clearly, and this is not the first time that Greg Gard has sat AJ Storr for long periods at the tail end of games. Clearly, Greg Gard is not particularly pleased with the shot selection with AJ Storr at times. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. It was very early in the season that when I asked at a post-game presser, Greg Gard said AJ Storr is learning what a good shot is. it is clear that AJ Storr still needs to learn that lesson. There is some stuff that AJ Storr was particularly good at in this one, things that he really added here, which was Wisconsin struggling to break a Maryland zone defense at points in time. At one point, Storr made a really, really good cut to the rim to break and slice through the Maryland zone. But if he's not able to do that, I mean, like all the time, which I know is somewhat of an unfair standard to set him to, and particularly when he's your most dynamic athlete, your most complete scorer. I know it's maybe a little bit of a hard standard, but with a team that limits possessions, you just can't have someone taking bad shots, someone turning the ball over unnecessarily, someone who takes a bad shot and then gets beat at the other end with relative ease. You can score, and this Wisconsin basketball team needs a scorer, and they're really glad that AJ Storr is there. But you just need slightly fewer of these negative interactions. And frankly, I think Connor Essegian is a good analog here. And I think in this one, Connor Essegian, he picked up a foul at one point in time, didn't get yanked from the game because Connor Essegian was still adding stuff and put up 7 minutes in this game. And at times this season, Connor Essegian would have been yanked. Doesn't seem that happened in this one. But overall, I think the AJ Storr experience just needs some polish. It's fine. He's going to take some bad shots. That's okay. But you need to hit them at a reasonable enough clip to stay on the court with a team that limits the number of possessions per game. But overall, Wisconsin finished strong in this one, thanks to some, great free throw shooting and some lucky shooting by Maryland, which made this close. Wisconsin won this by 4, and part of that is in thanks to the fact that Wisconsin hit some freaking free throws in this one. Shot 31 free throws, made 28 of them. They made 5 more free throws than Maryland attempted in this game. In some of that's inflated because Wisconsin had the lead late, but they had the lead. Maryland made 17 of 23, which is fine, 74%, but that's way below the average for a Maryland team that came into the day as a top 10 free throw shooting team in the country by shot percentage, or not by shot percentage. And I think I may have misspoken about this actually on the podcast that I released yesterday. By the point total distribution, so by the total number of points scored in a game, the proportion of which are free throws, Maryland scores about 25% of their points in a game come from free throws, and that's a top 10%. That's a top 10 clip in the country. So to hold Maryland to something like that, I think is pretty dang good. Just those 17 points on 74% shooting. Wisconsin nailing free throws late, keeping themselves ahead when Maryland was making a push. Maryland was making a lot of threes down the stretch to keep them in it, to keep it within a respectable margin. Although Wisconsin really was holding on to this. Maryland hit 5 of their last 6 shots from the field. On the game, Maryland shot 33.3% from 3. But keep in mind, Maryland only shot 1 of 6 from 3 overall in the first half. So they got a little bit lucky. Maryland was 2 of 12 from 3. But to close the game, then Maryland hit their last 3 3-point attempts, last 3 in a row, to make it a game. And it makes this margin look better than what it really was for Maryland. And for Wisconsin to respond, not turn the ball over, and hit free throws, that's good to come out with the win here, because there was a chance that Wisconsin could have kept turning the ball over because Maryland was giving Wisconsin some trouble. And this is where I want to get into the Greg Gard check-in. of this, because the things that were giving Wisconsin trouble was some of this Maryland zone defense and Maryland's full court pressure. We talked about on the episode coming into today, Maryland had the 6th ranked defense in the country by adjusted efficiency, according to KenPom. Maryland now still at 6. And it's a team that forces a good number of turnovers. A team that holds teams to a low effective field goal percentage. The effective field goal percentage that Maryland is holding teams to on the season is 45.8. Wisconsin, shot just from the field 44.7. So that's pretty dang good, and that's without even taking into account any 3-point shooting. So that's really solid. But Wisconsin having trouble breaking the zone, having trouble breaking the press at times. Wisconsin, I do not believe, scored any fast break points, any buckets in transition out of the full court press that Maryland was pushing. And Wisconsin was settling for shots late in the shot clock. They couldn't get their actions going against the zone. It was tough. And of course, they got a good bucket from AJ Storr. They got a late buried 3 from Max Klesmit, but that late buried 3 was kind of lucky because I didn't really understand why. And I noticed some people talking about, well, Wisconsin started trying to run out the clock with like 4 or 5 minutes left. This wasn't true. Wisconsin just couldn't get their offense going around this Maryland zone. Wisconsin was trying to run out the clock with 2 minutes left on the clock, which was too early considering Wisconsin's difficulty in getting the regular offense going. So when they started wasting half of the shot clock to start running out the clock because Wisconsin was up 8 or something that late, after they already weren't getting successful actions to get to the hoop early on, and you're taking a long time to get into the half court to start running your offense, that's not bad. You have the possession with 2 minutes left, up 6. You mess around with the entire shot clock, couldn't get anything going, and you settle for a chucky 3 from deep, which wasn't very good. Fortunately, the very next possession, after Wisconsin settles for the same exact thing, Max Klesmit buries a 3, which kind of saves them in this one. But it was just a situation where felt like the directive from Greg Gard was to slow the game down too early, which was a little bit unfortunate. But I thought one satisfying thing from Greg Gard here was real mix-up in rotations, which is something that I know Greg Gard haters really criticize with Gard, is him being unwilling to mix up his rotations, unwilling to try different things. And for those who have wanted to see Carter Gilmore not play, you got your wish. Carter Gilmore did not appear in this one. Usually appears as the preferred option off the bench to give Tyler Wall some rest. He does not appear in this one at all. Mark Silver hits in the game. Looks okay. An unfortunate turnover. Does not have. I don't think it's necessarily a bad turnover. I think it's just unfortunate. Couldn't quite get his grip on the ball in the corner. He doesn't score in this one. He gets 2 shots up, both of which are 3s, which I think is not quite what you'd want from him, but just doesn't have a ton of experience inside yet. But he gets 6 minutes. Connor Sejan gets some extended runs. He has 7 minutes in this game, more than he's been getting of late. And I think the other notable thing is that down the stretch, when Steven Crowell gets into foul trouble, he picks up his 4th foul. Crowell actually gets subbed out for John Blackwell, and Wisconsin goes small ball with Tyler Wall at the 5 for only a minute. But I don't remember the last time I saw I do not remember the last time I saw a small ball lineup with Tyler Wall at the 5. So it was fun. If nothing else, it was fun seeing Greg Gard do something a little bit different in this game. Maybe some of that stuff sticks. I I just don't think that minute there's a lot there to learn from, unfortunately. I would love to see it some more just because I'd like to be able to learn from it, and I don't remember that if Wisconsin ever went to that small ball lineup early in the non-conference season. I don't think that they did, uh, and I wish that there was open practice still, um, to see if they ever go to that lineup. But, gonna be, I mean, tough to know if Wisconsin will try to go to it again. I'm gonna guess probably not, but I would love to see it, especially if they're not gonna be willing to give Nolan Winter extended minutes in big games against, a Zach Edey, for example. But as we wrap up here, this is a Wisconsin win that locks them into the NCAA tournament for sure. I know I've talked about that there's not really much to worry about for a long time. Wisconsin on the 4 or 5-ish line for quite some time. And this locks Wisconsin in. Wisconsin, the rest of the way, is fighting for something between a 9 seed floor and a 2 seed high. And a 2 seed is going to require, Wisconsin to win out, plus probably get a little bit lucky. But a lose out scenario, I don't even think puts Wisconsin on the bubble anymore. This is a lock. And it should be fun. Should be fun the rest of the way watching this team play for seeding. There's a lot to play for still, because hanging out in a 4-3 spot is a lot more fun. It gives you a much, much, much better chance at not just winning a first round game, but getting out of the first weekend than slipping down to anywhere 5 to 9 would. So I'm looking forward to this stretch to end the season. There's really not any landmine games on the schedule anymore after this one, where Rutgers is technically a quad 3 game that you would say that's the only place where Wisconsin could take a bad loss, but that's not even a regular quad 3 game anymore with how well Rutgers has been playing. And I wonder if the committee would view a loss to Rutgers this late in the season if Rutgers continues to play at the level that the Scarlet Knights have. If the committee would view that as a typical quad 3 loss, or if they would kind of in their heads mark it as more of a quad 2. But at least now we're not asking these questions because we are concerned that Wisconsin isn't going to make the tournament at all. So that's a good thing. Should put people a little bit at ease. And onwards and upwards we go with this Wisconsin team that certainly defended much harder in this one than it did against Iowa. Another defender that we did not talk about in this one, and I think this really showed in the first half, especially, was Chucky Hepburn's defensive efforts against Jameer Young. First 10 first team All Big 10. All Big 10. I'm trying to put the words in the right order here that I wanted to. I was trying to say, and I smushed it all together the first time. The All Big 10 first teamer. There we go. Jameer Young, who put up 20 points, but had to take 17 shots to get there. Tyler Walcott got up 9 shots and got 18. So I feel like Tyler Wall was more impressive in this one. Jameer Young needed 17 shots and to shoot 7 of 7 from the free throw line to get up to 20. Really, really excellent defensive work from Chucky Hepburn, who drew 2 first half fouls, or who committed 2 first half fouls against Jameer Young, and buckled down again in the second half and didn't end up tacking on any additional fouls. So that was a really solid performance by Chucky Hepburn on defense. And if this team can defend more like what it did tonight, or last night rather, than what it did on defense against Iowa, it's a much better team. It's a much better team. Getting closer to getting back to what this team should be. And that is exciting. So Thank you for listening to today's edition of the Scotty Six Pack Podcast. We'll be back with you tomorrow with Noah Clark of 1070 The Game to talk Wisconsin women's hockey, sweeping Minnesota, and as it goes into a 1-2 matchup against Ohio State this weekend in Madison. Until then, you can follow me on the website formerly known as Twitter for all things Wisconsin sports at Kedrick Stumbers, and follow the podcast at Scotty Sixpack while you're here on your podcast platform of choice. Please leave a review, 5 stars, kind comments. It really does help the show. You can also watch us on YouTube, youtube.com/at Scotty Sixpack. And while you're there, smash the subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit the bell so you get notified as soon as we put new episodes into your feed on Wisconsin.